at the beginning of CircleCube, we had people who told us, yeah, you need at least 1 year to get the product done, at least 1 year, more often 2 years. And we did our first machine when we were really full-time. We had it after half a year. They're still running, and that was very limited resources. And I see advantages in hardware when you come to like business aspects of customer churn, and also you can provide often a really big value with hardware. When you do something manually, you will replace human labor directly, and especially in the Western world, human labor is limited and very expensive, and we can replace a lot of working hours in the gastronomy with our machines. And so I would say there's a really direct value. So when the customer buys the machine, he can calculate what his money is he saving, and that's also cool.
Welcome to a new episode within the Mind Echo podcast, where we're diving into the ideas, into the stories and thoughts from different entrepreneurs and business leaders, as well as people that I'm finding quite interesting in terms of how they shape different industries in Germany. Today, I'm really happy to have a conversation with Johann Oevermann. Johann and I cross our paths for the first time rather recently. So if you may recall, one of the guests in the podcast was Fabian Bartel, one of the co-founders of Vital. And he basically thought it would be a good idea to connect with Johann, and I was really happy that he did so. So basically, Johann's company as well as Vital, they are closely working together, and you will understand in a moment what exactly and why this is the case. In regards to his background, he's an entrepreneur and the co-founder of a company called CircleCube. And what they're doing is they are focused on delivering automation solutions. So automation solutions that provide, for example, seamless dispensing and returnable containers, as for example, the one produced by companies like Vital. He's coming from a background on agricultural and business management. And he has had experiences in different countries like Canada, in Czech Republic, and now being based in Germany. And throughout his career, he has the chance to work in different sort of disciplines or functions, such as management assistance, working the area of sales, but also in the area of marketing. And what I really liked when I had the chance to get to know Johann for the first time and do the pre-talk with him was that it's quite interesting also the perspective that he's bringing. And I really hope you can also be able to get a lot of insights from him. So again, big welcome, Johann, and not sure if there is anything that I missed, but also would be nice if you could also shortly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. Great summary. Couldn't do even better. That was my journey. Yeah, I'm very curious on your questions and the topics we're going to talk about.
Great, and big thanks again for taking the time, and looking forward to our conversation. So I asked you as we got in contact before starting to record, how was your week? And I'm also always impressed when I'm talking with different people that are engaging or going through the journey of being an entrepreneur, how they can manage to multitask and really engage with all different sort of tasks from different areas of the business. And the first question that I had to you was, what is currently in your mind these days? So if you can think of the 2 or 3 topics that are really more pressing at the moment, what are you focusing on right now?
Yeah, that's really great topic to start, even when talking about entrepreneurship, because that's what I really like about it, and what's fascinating, that you have so many complexity and so many things to keep in mind. Right now, it's really like technical certification of some specific product until the big thing of financing everything and bringing everything to the next step, and organizing all those different parts and bringing it one step closer. Yeah, everything to a final product, to combine everything to solve a solution and have a great product to improve some process. That's always my focus: problem, solution, and then bringing all together to get the job done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I suppose besides the actual problem you're solving from your customers, which is directly with the solution you provide, you're also, like you mentioned, need to spend time also solving all sort of problems to actually be able to realize the solution for your customers. So, but we're going to dive into that process and into that rationale in a moment. So, but before going into actual talking about your time at CircleCube and what you guys are doing there, as I told you before, for me it's quite interesting when having these conversations, and I think that's also interesting for the audience, just to go back all the way to the start, looking back on who is the person behind this company as well, and what triggered some thoughts to take you where you are. So I wanted to ask you, how was your childhood? So where did you grow up? What do you remember from that time?
Yeah, my childhood was really lovely on the countryside, on our family farm. And yeah, that's where I grew up, and was most of the time always the topic was about farming. But also the farm my father started is a little bit more economic farm, not like the one you know from the stories. It's more about business, so kind of a little bit entrepreneurial. And yeah, I grew up here, always loved farming, and after school I started an apprenticeship to get the basic knowledge of farming. But even then it was clear to me like to go into university, and that's what I did afterwards, and went to university in the city of Göttingen, studied classic agriculture management. And yeah, normally the plan would have been to maybe just a few years later go into the family farm and proceed the business. But there was always something I was feeling like I wanted to do something on my own. And then for quite a few years, I thought about like just going to work at a company, for example, or like having like a career in a corporate company or something like that. And because of society, people most often talk about working, doing a job, and
Right.
don't have like some self-employed job. Even my father was self-employed and did all that stuff. I still had the idea of maybe why not do a normal job. It was an option, it was not clear. But luckily I was a working student at a larger company. And already during university, I realized, okay, I don't want to be working for somebody. I don't want to work in a company. Even the company was great, was great working there and cool stuff and lots of opportunities. But there I gained the feeling of, yeah, you want to do something for your own. You want to start something. You don't want to take something from your father and proceed. You want to do something on your own. And that's how I came into like this startup world.
Okay.
And got to my first job at a startup, classic in Berlin, developed software. And then went to another startup, and yeah, that's how I got into this entrepreneurial field. And
Okay.
the end, CircleCube.
It's interesting to hear basically from the background where you grew up, and then you kind of started to find your ways up to the point to come to the decision, I would like to have my own thing, do my own thing, like you mentioned. But would you say that then this really came as you advance in your journey, after really this build up as you engaged with your studies, started to work? Or besides your parents, you could also think that there was maybe another influence close by that also made you, as you were younger, to think this could be actually something for me at one moment? Or was it strongly driven by your parents?
It was. So I really thankful for my parents, not like awaiting or like wanting me and also my siblings to go this entrepreneurial way or to success the family farm. It's not it was really unique. Farming is very traditional, and in most families, it's really the next generation has to take it on.
To
And
take over.
I'm the oldest one in the family, so often it's the oldest one. But my parents really told us, you don't have to do it. You don't have to. If you want, you can. And that's not really often that you...
Yeah, I suppose that's not a given, right?
No, and I'm really thankful for that. And that's... And I, first of all, I didn't really took that as special, but then I realized how special it is. And then I took the chance to just explore things on my own and to maybe go my own way. It was always in mind. I can do the family farm, and I really like farming. It's a great job. And also with the family farm, there are lots of opportunities. And at the end, it's not a really, even not financially, a bad decision. But yeah, and I also have to add to the story that my father was not from a farm.
Okay.
That's also not really typical, but yeah, okay. His great grandfathers, they had a farm and there was some connection, but he liked farming and wanted to do it and studied it, and then had the great opportunity of the reunion of Germany.
Okay.
And then here in the eastern part, there were lots of farms available. And so he got the chance to buy his own farm and then did pretty good with this thing here. But, and that's also the time where I grew up. So he
Okay.
started his own farm, and I saw his work, like going up in the morning 4 or 5 and then working all the day, going to bed at 10, 12, and then working again. And for me, it was really cool to see somebody like building something up. And today I would say that's what's fascinated me, was like to build something on your own, not to take something and proceed. For me, it was like my father did something new, start from scratch. And that's what even motivated me more to do stuff like CircleCube and all this stuff and go more that way. And also, yeah, neighboring or friends of the family who have businesses and all this stuff that also influence kind of me, but
Okay.
not in a too direct way. But yeah, you could, yeah, I have some around some
Okay.
people who have smaller, bigger businesses, and it's always influence. But interesting for me is that still I had a time in my life where I had the idea to like proceed a normal job, or not normal, but like a career in like a company. And I would say it's because of like society, everybody, as I mentioned, is talking about a job and not about like doing something on your own or being self-employed. That's not the normal case. And I'm always really respectful and about people who come like from more like parents are from working class or like employees and then do something on your own. Great respect, because
Sure.
that's a really big step to do that.
Yeah, interesting. So as I said, I think it's at the moment, if you start really going a bit deeper, probably you just start taking some things for given, but indeed there are certain situations or there are certain conditions or moments that only when you think back, then you realize, if I would have not gotten this chance or this chance, I would probably not be where I'm currently at. So that's quite interesting how you're looking into it and reflecting into it. But I take one phrase that you mentioned, that you find cool to see something building up and something developing. And I think to be on the lead role and bring something or a project towards this direction, you need to have, and that's a common thing that I'm asking, is what personal traits or characteristics do you see from yourself that maybe you feel that you already had or always had, and that help you in this journey? And which are traits also that you think you have developed over time that also serve you quite well?
Yeah, one trait that I know from like really beginning is that I'm always very curious and always asking, how is this working? Why is this going that way? And also always thinking about how could this be made easier? How can this be improved? How can you find a better solution maybe? Yeah, since I remember, I always ask questions and questions. Parents probably got annoyed sometimes. Yeah, that's a trait I would say that helps me still today. Always questioning everything and like a little bit like everybody nowadays talking about first principles, but yeah, ask if this is needed and then maybe replace it or do something different. And yeah, that there was an over the time developed that like I like the skill to managing different tasks at a time, or doing a broad field of tasks from, as I said at the beginning, from electric certification of a specific part of a product until like doing the financial planning for the whole operation, and even many other topics. And I really like to have so many things and
At the same time.
at the same time. I'm really bad at multitasking many things at one time. I really like to focus for a few hours on one thing, but then I really like to work on several things, and that helps very much because in a small company, at the end, you do everything.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. At the
and
end,
that's
you.
what, yeah, that's what I learned during the startups. Like my title was something with sales or with marketing or with business development, but at the end, you did everything basically.
Yeah, that I can imagine, and that's maybe something I wanted to ask as well, because you said in one moment you decided to engage with a startup. Did you take this decision indeed because you thought that's going to be like a good school for me to really be thrown into such a situation and try to learn as much as I can, so I can then prepare myself to then make that jump by myself? Or did you say, I will just go and see how I like it, and it was not everything fully planned?
I would say the first version. I was in this job at a mid-sized company in the agriculture sector, and as I said, I had great opportunities in the company. They needed young people in the management, and in the agriculture sector, it was a larger company, and there I had to make the decision if I wanted to go the next step in the career in the company. And during this process, I realized I don't want to work forever for somebody else. And also by the time, I was always very fascinated by innovative stuff, innovation, startups, and building something new. Always also having in mind that my father built something on his own, and I saw like a startup as an opportunity to just build something on your own. Not so much capital needed, or not. In the farming business, you always need like some piece of land or lots of capital. In the startup business, you can start with a few people having an idea and some skills and trying to solve a problem. And that's what fascinated me all the time about startups. And then I thought, maybe you should, or I also have a lot of ideas all the time.
Okay.
And then my idea was sometimes you want to start your own startup, but before you maybe go to another startups and learn something, how they're doing it. And there was great years, and I regret no day working there. Always, every day a new experience, I would say. Every day learned almost a new skill.
Okay, yeah.
And because it was so diverse, and from product development to production and then sales, so much to learn. And I was always very close with the founders, and there was also a lot of input I got from them. I'm still deep in contact and always talking and discussing, how do you do that? How did you do back then? How did you solve that problem? And that's helped me in a lot of decisions and building CircleCube.
Okay. And yeah, like you said, I suppose, interestingly, you mentioned you're getting different titles when you're joining a startup, but at the end, the title means initially maybe something, but at the end, it turns being really getting like learnings from all different disciplines and perspectives and so on. So for those listening or also thinking about becoming an entrepreneur at one moment, I think that's indeed a pattern or something that you hear from different people, the value of really putting yourself into people that are actually having this different way of thinking or operating, or put yourself in that context. And I think, and you're confirming this, Johann, you get lots of valuable learnings. But one thing then before making a transition is to say, yes, I will learn, and then I will engage on doing my own stuff, my own business. But that's not so easy, probably. For some, yes, maybe for the others not, to then really say, okay, I leave now and I engage with my own project. How was that moment for you, and in which exact moment of your life it caught you?
It was hard decision. It was almost your own startup because
Yeah.
in my case, it was together with like moving from one city to another city. So
Okay.
that made the decision a little bit easier. But at the beginning, I did both. I still worked at the previous startup and did CircleCube at the same time.
Okay.
Because with something, also learning was when you start something, do it maybe part-time and see how it's going. And when it's like half a year or a year still going good, and there was a case, then there was a decision to make, and that was also with the founders of the previous startups. They knew what there would come the time.
Okay. All right.
Looking back, it was quite a period, of transition, yeah.
But then you mentioned that, let's say, how this transition took place, and then that you were also throughout a period in parallel, still working there, developing your, let's say, the concept of CircleCube. But how did you come to this idea? So how's the process to come really from one moment thinking about it? Did you have this already as a plan for some time ago, or something sparked and you said, this could make sense?
No, I had many ideas before, but
Okay.
was not
Yeah, you
about
mentioned that.
reverse vending machines. And this came more, it was a combination. I curiously took part in a small incubator program,
Okay.
classic program, and I liked the title, like find problems and develop solutions. And that's what always fascinates me, like to work like on a problem and find a solution and do something to ease the process, whatever. And I was in the incubator. It was a little bit over a few weeks, I think 8 meetings or so. And after the second meeting, I was at an event. There were luckily reusable cups.
Okay.
And I wanted to, after I had my Coke, I guess, I want to return the cup. And I was standing in line for at least 10 minutes. I would even say it was 15 minutes. It felt like an hour because I was missing like events in the background. And in that moment, I was like really pissed about this situation. And then a few days later, we had the next meeting of this incubator.
Okay.
Where we discussed like problems, and I threw up this topic that I was really annoyed standing in line to bring back the cup to get my deposit. And then, the other guys in the team said, oh yeah, that's actually a problem I also had a few weeks ago, or even at the university, the one was in, he also said that at the coffee counter, there's also always a long line for the refunds. And that's how we got to this idea and started thinking about it. And then, having completely different, methods to solve the problem about, and prototyping, building MVPs and thinking about how can we solve the solution. And that's how it all started, because after the incubator with one guy of the group, I met him afterwards and I said, why not do it? And he's also, I also see the case. And then we proceeded very slowly at the beginning. So we looked into the market and had ideas, but more on a weekly. Sometimes we didn't even look to it for a month or so. But then it kept rolling. We saw there's no solution on the market, nothing coming up. Then talking with reuse systems like Vital, and they also telling us that there is not a really great reverse vending machine for our case because it's a pretty new system. And that's how it started. And
Okay. Yeah, interesting. So I said, I think each story is different. And exactly like, at least in your case, it confirms again, source of kind of great ideas comes when you yourself are feeling directly the pain. And based on that, it's where you realize where the potential, or that some potential or big potential could lie. So interesting. So maybe now that you explain where this idea came from, and I think for the listeners now it's becoming more and more clear what's the solution that you are offering to the market. Maybe it's a good time that you can explain a bit exactly. So what exactly you guys are offering, yeah, and basically what's the concept that you are presenting.
Basically, we are developing and building reverse vending machines. So you get nothing, we take something back from you. And in Germany, they're in every supermarket already. The bottles have a deposit, and when you're done with your drink, you enjoyed your drink, then you can go back to any supermarket basically and put in the bottle and get your deposit back. And we develop same machines, but for reusable cups, bowls, pizza boxes, burger boxes, everything that serves as a container for food and drinks and beverages. And so our machine is specialized for this sector because it's quite a new sector. We are working not in supermarkets, more specific in the gastronomy, in cafes, but mainly in larger canteens, larger restaurants, canteens at large companies, manufacturing, production companies, and universities, hospitals. It's the market. And then we're not quite there, but planning to go in the event sector for catering, where you have your beer and Coke in a reusable cup. And then after the event, you can return your cup in our machine and then get back your deposit.
Interesting. And I think I was looking into one topic in the fashion industry, and then I was also looking into, for example, what Vital was doing, and another business model regarding to circularity, circular economy. And I think what you guys are doing ultimately is also serving as a strong enabler to drive further adoption of this kind of approach. Because as you mentioned, I think this is something that there is certain awareness, there has been certain development, and I think the more normal it becomes, it definitely helps a lot to drive adoption further. And of course, not from the consumer, but at the same time, there are other situations, like you mentioned, it's like establishing within events, right? So I think there are many opportunities, but I suppose you really need to go step by step and really see where do you bring the focus. And that's maybe something that I wanted to ask you as well. How do you balance developing your solution for the current application that you're already serving versus also innovating and putting time for further innovation and looking where else to focus?
Yeah, that's a really hard decision right now for us, because with some products and solution, we're like in a serial production, improving it step by step, but the main innovation for this one is done and it's already operating. But still, on the other side, we have many other solutions in mind, and also we always try to improve the products more and more, because it's a new market, it's a new technology, and our first machines are definitely not the end stadium and the perfect ones. They solve the problem and they do quite well, but we're always looking to make it more easy, make the machines more universal. Big topic is to make them more cheaper, to make them easier, so more can be placed and in the settings, so you have more return points, for example. And that's really hard for us right now, because we have so many ideas in our mind what we can do, but on the other side we have to get some business going.
Sure.
And have not the resources to do like everything at a time. And especially for a startup in our situation, or for a company, when you don't have like the financial background of having 10, 15 years of revenue and profits and investing something in R&D, or now whether prefer to invest more in market development and going further with that point, but also having always new ideas and testing them and putting time in innovating. And that's actually right now our topic. Really good question.
Okay.
Because I don't have a solution, or correct answer.
Sure.
We'll find out how we solve it in 10 years, then we can tell you if we have an hour.
And probably there is not correct answer, because at the end, I think you can do as much as you can and you try to balance based on the best information you have, how to proceed. And now I have three directions I want to go into. So one is maybe going back to something you shared with me when we were having our pre-call, that what you guys are developing ultimately goes in the direction of hardware. And of course, you see many startups which focus a lot on software solutions at the moment. And I found really quite interesting and quite special also to have the chance to talk with you. So being hardware the main component of it, what are the challenges? What's the process to be able to succeed when you're really working on a company focused on hardware?
Yeah, it's not so usual to do something with hardware when you're doing something in the startup sector. And I also try not to say that we are a real startup. I see us more as a business, more as a company, with some aspects of a startup. And because it's hard to be or for my definition, to be a real startup, because how I learned startup is something really innovative. Okay, we do something innovative, but it must be really quick scalable. And there I see some barriers when you do something with hardware. And we tried to do our concept as scalable as possible. We built our machines much smaller than other RVMs. We made a modular system where you replace certain parts when you need to do service. So, and we are now in, I guess, around 7-8 countries. So we needed to do some concept to be able to ship worldwide, and that's the part with with hardware. You need to provide maintenance service, and our system is, you don't have a lot of maintenance. There's no cycle. You have to check everything. It's
okay.
Runs for the next 100 years. And also, when something happens, you need to have possibility to do some service. With software, it's just an update. And with our machine, we can, as I said, send small parts so the customer, the user, can replace them on his own. But still, there's some limitation on the scalability, and
sure.
Also on this development speed. That's also why I would say not a direct startup, because our iteration cycle is in months. So every 2-3 months we can do an improvement, and our sprint is way longer than in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Sure.
Software, and that's the things you have to keep in mind doing something with hardware. With hardware, hardware is hard.
Yeah,
But
indeed.
I see some advantages, and I figured out it's not too hard, and it's also something I always like to challenge. When somebody says, "Oh, hardware is too hard," then I'm the one, it's easier than you think. And that's also what drives me to prove other people wrong. At the beginning of CircleCube, we had people who told us, you need at least 1 year to get the product done, at least 1 year, more often 2 years. And we did our first machine when we were really full-time. We had it after half a year. They're still running. So, and that was very limited resources. So it's something that challenged us, and I see advantages in hardware when you come to like business aspects of customer churn, because when somebody has rent a machine, they take it forever. They don't cancel the subscription very fast because they have to ship it back. And also you can provide often a really big value with hardware because you're doing something manually. When you do something manually, you will replace human labor directly. And especially in the Western world, human labor is limited and very expensive, and we can replace a lot of working hours in the gastronomy with our machines. And so I would say there's a really direct value. So when the customer buys the machine, he can calculate what his money is he saving, and that's also cool.
Okay. Interesting. Something that I was also curious as you were speaking was, as you're developing the different solutions you have, and thanks for sharing the information. I look into the return cube, drop cube, and I was thinking you currently have, let's say, different stakeholder groups that you need to be aware of their requirements, of their feedback, and so on. I mean, if I just think immediately, but please complement because there are probably other stakeholders I'm not even thinking right away. You have the companies you're collaborating with or partnering with regarding the reusable containers, for instance. But at the same time, you also have the end users that are also operating or let's say utilizing your devices. How important is feedback from each party, and how are you making sure that you always integrate this feedback into the further development sprints?
Feedback is so important, and it gave us so many great ideas, and still ideas we're having in mind to do improvements. And sometimes just a small adjustment to, normally we had like a bottom in the machine, and then somebody said, I want to have a trolley to drive in the boxes, so it's easier for me I don't have to lift them. And it was some reconstruction, but not hard to change. And we changed this feature. And after testing it even on my own, I was like, wow, why didn't we come to this idea before? Because as a user doing this work, it's way more easy and cool to do it. And on the market, no other REM company is doing it this way. And now when we present our machines, we show them the feature of rolling the trolley in and out, and whoa, that's really cool. And many other more stories about feedback. And it's, you're right. There are two main feedback circles we have with our partners, the reuse systems, and they have really great ideas because they collect many information and they see the whole cycle and have many ideas about how to improve the whole process and get many stories from many customers. And therefore it's really great to have such cool companies like Vital who are really always having great ideas and trying to improve every step. And that was also our main source at the beginning, to talk with them. And also cool, like we have like a B2B and to B. And that also made it easier because we only had a few customers we had to talk, but they had a lot of information and feedback for us.
Sure.
And it was really concentrated and over the years developed feedback. And then at the end, at the beginning, we always drove to the canteens and restaurants when we set up the machine, and we were just standing next to the machine, looking at like real end users using the machine. That was also great feedback. So more learnings, seeing how the people are, even like a small QR scanner, you don't realize how many people don't understand how to use a QR scanner correctly. And how you have to place it that it's working. Yeah, it's great. And we still try to go as often to a machine and just sit there for like half an hour and see how the people use the machine and integrating it in our next generation. And those are small improvements we can often do in a short-term circle and don't have to develop a whole new product for it. And we also have a series of like features that we developed, so you can place something here, and that's what we developed in 1 week, and customers love it, and that's really great. working together with the reuse systems, looking at the customers and developing the product and solution and improving it step by step. And we're still in the middle of the process to someday have a really great solution.
Sure. And I'm sure you for sure will continue moving forward and get there where what you're envisioning. And I was about to ask indeed about the relevance of data and analytics, because of course you mentioned your partners can provide lots of data. And then I was just thinking, okay, based on the systems that they are deploying, what kind of data points they also get that also they can read and make use of. But then even you just mentioned, yes, the single and easy activity of sitting and observing the behavior of people, it's already telling you a lot, right? So you don't need to even make it so complex. Just watching people acting gives you many signals. But of course, you are also guys collecting data based on all the transactions that take place. And I suppose nowadays being able to not only collect the data, but to be able to really spend the time to get the insight out of that data is really important, right?
Yes, but so we don't want to do a business out of the data, and we don't sell it or do anything with it. It's just for our insights. Just to clarify that, I'm not such a fan of doing that stuff of business. And also, there is some feedback we see, like when the machine is used and all this stuff. But those, it's more like, telling us what we expected sometimes before, because, when the canteen is used during midday, then you expect to go the volume down and up. Best feedback for us was really observing, talking to people. Data at the end was not a big part for us yet, I would say. On the other side, maybe we need more machines in the market, not 100, maybe in the 1,000 area, then we would maybe can do more with the data. But right now, it's also, the machine is standing in so many use cases, it's not enough data, I would say. Even coming from a scientific background, I would say there's not.
Okay. Understood. Can you, because you mentioned, but I just wanted to also understand, can you elaborate a bit more on the business model of the company? So you mentioned that you were operating with a subscription approach, if I got you right. But maybe you can explain, maybe you can answer me two questions. The first one is, I didn't ask you with how many other people are you running the company at the moment? And the second one is, when you're thinking of a business model and which options are, how does this process went to say, let's go for that one, or let's go for this other approach, and so on?
We have four co-founders from the beginning on. No, the beginning, the incubator with one of them. So we started together, and then after quite some time, the other two joined. And that's the core team focused on the development, but also on the business side. One co-founder is more from business side. And then we thought about getting more people, but we went really successful with working with several freelancers. So getting expertise in this and that field, that worked really well. So, and then we have for manufacturing employees, but they're for the basic stuff, so assembling and then making everything ready for shipping and then organizing that stuff. So in the core team, we are still focused on us four guys. Would love to have some diversity, but it started with the idea of selling the machines, but also having in mind to have a subscription model. And after time, we thought, then when we did the market launch, we offered both options, and the subscription model is way more famous and more people like subscription. And that's the most machines go with subscription.
Okay. All right. And I suppose that's ultimately, after running for some time, that's the model that you both, or you all, feel more comfortable with, how it's operating.
Yeah, we had at the beginning, in the business development phase, we had several ideas, but it was very quickly how we came into those two options, and then they were perceived well from the market. And I don't see any reason to change the model. We are happy. I think our customers are happy.
That's important. That's important. Then I'm gonna jump now that you share that you're a core team of four co-founders. How is it to drive a business with such a group when you really need to take probably quick decisions? You need to adjust things, need to stay flexible. How do you find this way of working with different co-founders? What's important to have in them? How do you complement between each other? And when can it get challenging as well?
Yeah, yeah, that's where afterwards really grateful for my co-founders, because each of us has his own expertise, really deep expertise in hardware development, software development, business development, and sales. We didn't know each other before, and we are spread over Germany in different areas, working 100% remote, even as a startup company.
Okay.
That is kind of a challenge to get some larger meetings so everybody feels the hardware, because then you can learn the most when you really use it on your own, see customers using it, and then, so that was a challenge, but we made it that in the area of each founder, there is a machine nearby. One of our software developer, when he's going to lunch, he's going to the canteen and sitting next to the machine and seeing other customers using it. Did a lot of change to our workflow of the machine, because he saw in real life how people having issues understanding the screens and all that stuff. And yeah, that's a challenge, but I think it's going good. And also it's really cool that each of us has his specific field, but has also, on say knowledge, but some feeling for like doing business. Two of them are also coming from like normal families. Parents were working, and I'm really fascinating about their abilities or like their insights into like how to run a business and how to do everything financially, leading a team or leading development, leading the business, bringing something into the market, having focus on a product, and also discussing about a business model. Business model was really worked out together and in several discussions, and yeah, it's really cool like having engineers who also have like a perspective for the market, for the whole concept, for the company, on how to run everything. That's really appreciate having those co-founders, because we can discuss every topic. Yeah, that's really great, having also internal feedback.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's really important also, that there is cohesion between the team. There is always going to be some friction, but I think if you find, and you mentioned that you're grateful for the team you have, I think that's really, really important, if not one of the most important foundations to be able to push forward as a team and as a business, right? Just being aware of time, and I have definitely many more questions, but I just wanted to wrap up maybe with three or four final questions. So what do you think needs to happen to be able to increase further adoption? So I remember in my conversations with Fabian that there is a whole topic regarding regulations, that should be a further driver. There is also behavior from each person or from consumers as well. How are you seeing this development?
Yeah, there's some regulations existing, some might come, but for me, I'm more a market type of guy who says the change must come from the market.
Mm-hmm.
That's also the approach of CircleCube to make this possible, because at the end, it's the customer who decides. When he likes it or it's convenient for him, then he will go the more sustainable way. When it's totally inconvenient, so you have to drive 3 kilometers to return your cup, then it's not a solution in my mind and in my perspective. And That's why we started developing those reverse vending machines, because we wanted to make the process as easy as possible.
Sure.
The current way is singular. It's you use it and it's waste. It's easy. The circular way always includes something to return, and that's why our idea was, or our concept is like to have like lots of reverse vending machines so you can return it basically anywhere.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully someday we get to the point where you have lots of possibilities and it's becoming more and more into the basic flow of people using reusable.
And maybe on that, although I know you've shared throughout the conversation some points, but and connected to my question regarding the future. So how do you envision, let's say, looking down the road some further years down, how would you, what's the state that you would like to get in terms of the experience that you offer with devices that you are bringing into the market?
Yeah, best example maybe is our drop box. That's kind of the format design of like a garbage bin. Should not be like design of it, like not the look, but from the concept, you have like small bins at many places, and you just go by and drop your reusables, like you throw your single-use cup in the garbage. And that's where we want to go, in that direction, to make it more easy. And right now it's often, I would say, a price point, because those smart machines a little bit more expensive than a garbage bin. And that's where our ideas are going, to make the concept easier, to make it more affordable. So it's not a real question if I'm going to place a waste bin or a drop cube, because it's almost the same time and the same money. And at the end, the coffee saves money, because they don't have to buy a single use, they can just reuse. And maybe some regulations are needed, not the expert for that. But when we're coming to some economical, feasible level, then I'm really bullish that we engage more customers to use reusables and don't throw away so much waste.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I hope the whole transition also goes further forward in this direction. To wrap up on CircleCube, how do you come to such a name? What was the process to say, yeah, that's the name we all want to stand behind, that represents our company?
Yeah, it's great to the question of the team, because it was also a teamwork. I think the Circle name came from one co-founder, and he had something with Circle something. And then over the time was like a team, one of the early team meetings after the team weekend. We all agreed on CircleCube.
Okay.
And yes, an example that I think the final name came from one of our engineers. I'm not quite sure, but for me, an example of like having great co-founders and contributing to each other, even when it's not their key expertise.
Yeah.
That's, even the name speaks for it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It's straightforward, it's memorable, and really aligned to what you're going for. So I was just curious, because sometimes you end up speaking about what's behind it, but then it's also maybe quite interesting to know how did you end up getting there. But no, thanks for sharing. Something, and I said just almost closing up, something I also like to ask people, just because I think it makes it more personal as well, is you are engaged in driving a company with your co-founders, you're having your own role, and you need to take all sort of tasks. But I'm pretty sure that it also can be overwhelming at times, based on everything you need to do, depending sometimes more, sometimes less. But how do you manage to disconnect when you actually need a break?
Thinking about other business ideas.
Which connects back to what you shared, that you've always have been having ideas or been thinking of ideas.
Yeah, it's so really to disconnect is doing something with friends and going out or going some adventure trip. That's that's a great chance to really disconnect. But at the end, I don't really often disconnect really completely. It's always in your mind, and for me, it's okay. I would even say I liked.
Yeah, sure.
Sure, sometimes it's maybe a little overwhelming in the overall. I would say it's not too stressful, or
Okay.
maybe someday will come, but
For the moment, you're definitely enjoying the ride.
yeah, maybe it's we could even do more, I would say.
Okay. All right. And maybe for those listening in and have heard throughout the whole conversation, and they are also maybe, who knows, at an earlier stage of their career, they are maybe thinking could be interesting to be an entrepreneur one day, or maybe they are already into their experience. What are maybe 1, 2 things based on everything you've learned so far that you would advise people either thinking about engaging with a venture on their own, or what you could advise for those running already a company?
Yeah, my first thing is, well, like a few weeks ago, I read article post something about that's always young founders are like, everybody is talking about them, how crazy they are starting something in their young ages, and nobody is talking about like people starting like self-employment or startup something when they're like 38 years old or 50. Because in my perspective, it's more easier to start something when you're younger, when you're early beginnings of your career. I have more respect for people starting later when they're having family, probably a decent job. Everything is already in a good situation. It's way more harder, and I have more respect, I would say, to those people starting late. But my advice is still for other people to start early because it's easier. And I also, I don't would say regret, but I could have started earlier, I would say. And looking back, there were also other ideas that came out of nothing, and I could have maybe gained some experience earlier.
Sure.
And not after I've done apprenticeship, studying, working, and that's it. And yeah, and then when you're not so early, I would advise maybe go into a startup, go there, work for 2 or 3 years, especially a young startup at their beginnings, maybe being an employee 1 or 2. I don't know. I was not 1 or 2. I was a little bit later, but still in the early years, yeah, it's I can only say it's such a great opportunity. So many things to learn when you connect with the other founders. You get so many insights, and then yeah, looking back, I got so many informations, tips, tricks, even yeah, from that part working in the previous startups. That's what I would give it a advice. Definitely try it, and yeah.
Try it. Take the
Anyone
leap.
is not too shy away from hardware.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I would also recommend. I hear so many people who want to do something with software. You can do it when you have a great idea, but I tend to see people who only want to do something with software because everybody's saying do something with software. Maybe because it's easier, but especially here in Germany and Europe, we have so many like partners and advisors, manufacturers, so much expertise for hardware production, that you have like a real advantage competing with other regions in the world, because software you can do from anywhere with almost any partner. You can get an advisor from somewhere, but hardware is always specific fields. And also you need specific equipment. And here in Germany, you have the possibilities and you have great companies. And yeah, it's not that hard as everybody's saying. And
Yeah, and that's definitely, as we said throughout or earlier in the conversation, that's another perspective. And I'm pretty sure that those listening in, as you heard, take the leap, don't shy away from hardware.
Yeah.
There are also opportunities in this area. Great. If there is any person that is interested to learn more about CircleCube, if there is any potential future partner that you maybe have not reached out to and they were thinking, I would really like to get in contact with Johann with CircleCube, where can they can find about you guys?
Mainly on LinkedIn, on our website, of course, circlecube.eu. But LinkedIn is our main platform where we interact with almost anybody.
Great. So having heard that and having asked you this final question, I would say we come to an end now. So I really appreciated our conversation, Johann. So was really interested to hear your perspective, your views, how you're driving CircleCube. And I need to be honest that I'm really looking forward to see more of those out there. And I'm really looking forward to see where the journey takes you guys. So really appreciate the time. And yeah, I hope you also enjoy the conversation.
Both 100%. Really great questions. It was really
Great.
Pleasure to talk with you.
Great. For those listening in, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I hope that you could get as much information and insights as I did. So thank you very much for tuning in and looking forward to have you in the next episode. And thank you very much again, Johann.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the conversation, I would really appreciate your support. So depending where you're listening to it, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast and leave any questions or comments. Thanks again for tuning in and see you in the next episode.